Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, everybody. This is Running Around Jerusalem, episode 13.
Woo.
And we are here on the northernmost edge of Jerusalem, in an area where most people, when they come to Jerusalem, do not come and see, because today our run is called The Unknown Neighborhoods. Michael, what are we going to see today?
Well, we are starting here in the Arab neighborhood of Shuafat. We're actually going to follow the light rail line down from the northern arc, hitting the bunch of the different stops on the line that we may see, but you don't actually know the neighborhoods behind them. And that's what we're going to explore.
We're going to go see where people actually live. Please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Facebook, and comment to us. We would love to hear from you. Let's go. Good morning, Michael, again.
Good morning, Daniel.
So,
good morning, guys. How y'all doing?
We are definitely in a different kind of area than we have filmed before.
Yeah, how do you notice that?
There's a big mosque to my right, and most of the writing is in Arabic around me. Well, that's great. I'm all for it. So let's start off, because we really want to go into the neighborhoods that people maybe don't usually see. Let's talk about Jerusalem as a whole for a minute. So Jerusalem as a whole is how many people?
So you're talking about the most latest census they had.
Yeah.
Has about 936,000 residents of Jerusalem.
Okay.
63% are Jews.
Right.
And 37% Arab.
Arab.
Yeah.
And that can be Arab Muslim and Arab Christian.
Correct.
Arab as well.
Vast majority are Arab Muslim.
Right.
But you have about 3% or so who are Arab Christian.
I see. Okay, fine. This area, as you said, is in Shafat. This is a village that has been here for quite some time, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
It was a village, not really a village anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So today, Shafat has about 22,000 people living here.
Right.
So it's one of the neighborhoods in Jerusalem, because it's within the municipal borders now.
Sure.
But you're right. It used to be a village. Even going back to, for like 1,000 years or so.
Oh, really?
You had an Arab village here, but you also have the remains of a Jewish village that was underneath here, which they uncovered when they were building this light rail.
Right.
And what's fascinating about this village from the Jewish time is that it's the largest Jewish settlement that they found in the Jerusalem area from the time period of just after the destruction of the temple, which happened in 70 CE.
Right.
Until the Bar Kokhba revolt, which happened just after 130 CE.
So again, we're running in an area many similar to many of our runs, including our latest Sataf run, where a settlement has been present in this place for a very long time. Yeah?
Yeah, and different layers. And
different layers.
You're talking about Jews, Crusader stuff that was here.
Right.
Muslim villages that were here.
And now just a Muslim area.
And by the way, pre-1967, this was Jordan.
And pre-1967, this would have been Jordan.
And that's actually when this neighborhood really started to build up, because in the British times, you had about a total of like less than 1,000 people that lived here in Shuafat.
I see.
And by the time Israel took this place over in 1967, you're already up to well over 2,500 people.
So Michael, as we said, this was old Jewish settlement, Arab town, Crusader town, and then on the British rule it kind of grew. But today we're definitely not in a town. This is very much one of the residential areas of Jerusalem. We just happen to be, a bit further north than we usually go.
Look, and you can see right now there are two different light rail stations that stretch through this town of
There's
Shafat.
actually three, because there's one right at the end as well on the main road. So yeah, there's actually a third one, but yeah, there's two in the middle, definitely.
Yes, and it's a growing place. This is one of the most popular neighborhoods if you are an Arab in the Jerusalem area. Yeah. This place is pretty happening and growing.
And so this is run by Jerusalem municipality, as any other residential area of Jerusalem would be.
Exactly, and so they have their own local, also like community council, right? That kind of runs it. But here's the interesting thing. In addition to the local community council that runs the thing, you have another council, like a village council in a way, that's made up of representatives of the 6 original clans that founded this village. And today, they make up about 1/4 of Shuafat's population. Okay, so they don't represent everybody, But I think it's interesting because, you know, when you get into the Arab neighborhoods and to the Arab villages, you still have this tribal, clannish makeup and governing system in a way that still works.
Yes.
So I found it fascinating. You don't necessarily have that in any Jewish neighborhoods in
No. Well,
Jerusalem.
to explain that point, Arab culture, especially Muslim Arab culture, especially in this area of the world, very much works on family units who are part of clans, who are part of even larger tribes. They sort of, one goes into the other. It's kind of like building blocks.
Right, so you're thinking about, if we say that there are about 22,000 people live here, and 6 families are a quarter of that.
Yeah.
That's like 1,000 people per family or
So
clan.
it's these large extended clans. And they often live actually in the same area as well. It's kind of a nice concept. Okay, so they still very much, things are running here very much between the new, or part of Jerusalem, and the light railway, and still in kind of the older, more traditional Arab Muslim way as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice combination. Okay, so the light railway, well, you said when they were excavating it, they found an old Jewish settlement underneath here.
Yeah, so here's what's fascinating. You have to go back 2,000 years to the time Jerusalem's at its height. Again, we're talking about the end of the Second Temple period. And then everything comes crashing down when you have the Great Revolt from 66 to 73 CE. And the temple gets destroyed in this. And Jerusalem is sacked and burned as well.
For sure.
So archaeologists have always debated about what happened to the Jewish population in this time shortly after the war. Was there Jewish population still in Jerusalem? Did you have a few people here and there? I mean, what is going on?
Right.
There's always been a debate. When they were building this light rail, they found a very organized, developed Roman-style town, but they know it was Jewish, and it was from this exact time period post-destruction.
Right, okay. So what does that tell us?
Well, it's possible what happened is that some of the wealthier units of, or units, what am I talking about here? One of the wealthier people from Jerusalem who escaped the war might have reestablished community up here where Shufat is today.
I see.
Now, here's the other thing. When does this Jewish town end? 130 CE.
Okay.
Now, why is that important? Because in 130 CE, the Emperor Hadrian comes for a visit to the land of Israel, to Judea, and he decides to found a new city in place of Jerusalem called Aelia Capitolina, and he decides to build a temple to Jupiter on the Temple Mount. And this is one of, if not the main reason that the Jews again decide to revolt. In a bloody revolt called the Bar Kokhba revolt, which is going to have huge implications for the Jewish community here.
So as we crossed the last train station, thank you, we've got junction in my brain, and we cross over, so right down that road is already a Jewish community. So really the Arab and the Jewish communities are literally one right next to the other. And we transition between them, you know, seamlessly, no problem at all. Was that always an easy transition to make?
Not always, but you know, this particular stop is called Givat HaMivtar. We're following the stops along the light rail. And
a Givah is a hill, guys, like a slope,
Right, and this is the site of an important battle in the 1967 Six-Day War, okay, which is when Israel captured East Jerusalem from Jordan. And this particular area, this northern arc, you had some really hard fought battles here, the most famous of which is the hill over called Ammunition Hill. Another stop on the light rail. Okay.
Just 2 stops down, I think.
But this particular hill, there's a bunker, and there was a Jordanian sniper position.
I see.
Why were these hills so important to the Israelis in '67? Not just because they're 2 of the ones that are ringing around Jerusalem, the old city, but because we have to remember that Israel held and continued to hold Mount Scopus, which is where the Hebrew University and the Hadassah Hospital were.
I mean, I could throw a stone, guys, to hit it.
And
It's
that's
right
where
there.
we're actually going there next.
Oh.
Okay, but they continued to hold that throughout the time when this was Jordan.
Right.
So you had this Israeli, what's the word I'm looking for?
Enclave.
Enclave inside of Jordan.
Right.
By the way, this memorial is to some of the soldiers that fell in the battle
Of 67.
in 1967.
Right.
It's very common to see these types of memorials.
Yeah, they're dotted around everywhere.
All over
Very
Israel.
common, yeah.
And we are on top of the bunker.
We're on top of the
Jordanian
bunkers,
bunker
yeah.
right now. All right, so let's keep going and I'll tell you why
next
Mount Scopus was such a critical place.
So as we come back down off the hill, the bunker is very, very clear. On the left-hand side, this kind of cement covering and entranceway. So that is the original Jordanian bunker, correct, in there?
Yeah. So what we were saying is, as we make our way towards Mount Scopus,
Yes.
why were the Israelis so concerned about this little enclave? First of all, I actually just really love this sign. Old City, that way. Who else gets to run around a place where you're like, ancient Jerusalem is right there? Like,
Right.
It's just cool.
I always say.
Okay, so as we make our way towards Mount Scopus, there was an event in April of 1948
Yeah.
that basically made the Israelis paranoid about what's going to happen to the people who are up on Mount Scopus. And that is a convoy of doctors and nurses that were on their way to the hospital there, and they were ambushed and they were all killed, all 78 of them.
Right.
And
I see.
from that moment, the Israelis said, wait a second, if we held on to Mount Scopus, but if war ever breaks out there, we have to make sure that the people up there can defend themselves.
They're worried that the place will just get overrun and everyone will get killed.
Exactly.
I see.
And the funny thing is that throughout the 19 years between the Independence War and the 67 War, there actually was a deal that allowed Israel to send in new guards every 2 weeks.
Right.
But instead of just sending in, random guards, they used to also smuggle in all kinds of like heavy weaponry. So when the 67 War broke out and the Jordanians went to attack Mount Scopus, they found that there was heavy artillery that was being fired from them. We're like, oh
Right.
crap! What?
Right.
So Israel actually was pretty prepared for it.
They'd
by that
secretly
time.
made the position much more safe.
Yeah, it was really like the worst kept secret. And when they go through the checkpoints in order to get there, be like, oh, hi, which special unit are you from? Right.
Right,
There's a
okay.
big burly guy.
Are you a nurse? Yes.
Yes.
Of course I am.
Yes.
And continuing on the running around Jerusalem quiz. Who knows what the hell this statue is? Michael, we don't know. Can you work them out? Because we bloody can't. Right, let's go.
We finally made it across the street.
And we also made it across the street.
Okay, let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Okay.
So wait, by the way, this is Mount Scopus.
This is
We're
Mount Scopus.
already at Mount Scopus.
Yeah.
Right. After
The longest traffic light in the history of the world, yeah.
Yeah, but
Since
it's not
the
like we
last
had to
one.
actually run far to
Yeah.
get here.
Okay. Mount Scopus, hospital that way. Main police headquarters of Israel is just over there, if anyone interested. And the university is just above us. Okay. Are we coming to see one of those things, or are we coming to see something else?
Nope, something else.
Something else. Okay, what's your special treat for me today?
We are actually going to a British cemetery.
Yeah. Why is
Your
there a British
countryman.
cemetery on Mount Scopus?
Because-
From what period? What makes it Brit? What are we talking about, Michael?
So there are over 2,500 British graves here from the soldiers that fell in World War I.
World War One.
World War I.
Okay.
That's correct. We have to remember that the British captured.
Yeah, conquered, as we would say.
Right. They captured Palestine
From the Ottomans.
from the Ottomans in World War I.
Yeah.
And so they lost soldiers. And there are, I think, about 5 different British cemeteries scattered throughout the country for their fallen. And the main one is actually right here. Now, you have people from like 7 different countries here, because we have to remember that at the time of World War I, the sun never set on the British Empire.
Yeah, it's true. So this is a cemetery to British troops who fought against the Ottomans in the 1917 offensive to capture Palestine.
Yep, you got it.
This is a soldier it's unknown who it is, and it's listed a soldier of the Great War known unto God. And if you go into the northern France and Belgium as well, you'll find the same description. So the next leg of our journey is, if I remember correctly, we're going to cut back into one of the Arab towns or Arab communities.
Arab neighborhoods.
Arab neighborhoods. Neighborhood's a good word. Which is the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
It's actually named, by the way, after the guy who was like the personal physician to Salah ad-Din. We're talking about 1,000 years ago. And this particular neighborhood is founded in the 12th century.
So pretty common to Shafat where we were before. A community that's been there for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it's just grown into part of Jerusalem municipality over time, effectively. Yes?
Yes, however, it also has taken on some importance in recent years because, number one, you have a lot of different consulates that have representation there in Sheikh Jarrah, where they built their compound.
Yeah.
And, even back just pre-state Israel, you had the Husseini family and a couple of the other really wealthy, well-known Arab families that all lived in Sheikh Jarrah. It's a pretty important Arab neighborhood. But why do I want to take you there? Because not necessarily for the Arab culture, everything you see there, although it's pretty interesting,
sure.
But because it's one of these Jerusalem places in the middle of this well-to-do Arab neighborhood. You have this enclave of Jews because there is you have some that live there, but there's also a tomb, an ancient tomb. They call the tomb of Shimon HaTzadik.
So we're saying inside an ancient, very old, not ancient, Arab community that has again grown into Jerusalem municipality, we find inside of it a very ancient Jewish tomb of Shimon HaTzadik, you said, who is, HaTzadik would be a righteous person?
A righteous person,
possibly
so...
a saint?
I don't know if you could totally say that.
I'm crossing cultures here.
But he was definitely a big-time leader of the Jewish community.
Right.
And he goes back to the times of Alexander the Great. So you're talking about 300s BCE. So how long ago was that? 2,300, 2,400 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah. But here's one of the amazing stories. This is why I wanted to bring him up.
Yes.
Okay. We were just at the British cemetery.
Yes.
So Britain is one of these like world powers, right? One of the empires that ruled over here. The Jewish population had to figure out how to rule with here, right? So that's something the Jewish population here has had to deal with, all the different empires that rule this place.
Right.
Okay, so one of the most significant ones was the Hellenists, which we talked about actually in the Hanukkah run, okay? But there's a great story between Shimon Tzaddik and Alexander the Great. So the story goes that the enemies of the Jews badmouthed them to Alexander the Great, who was on his way through this region on his conquests. And
Alexander the Great, we're talking great Greek.
Yeah, we're talking about who
Greek
conquered most of the world.
Right.
Okay. Guy you don't want to mess with, right?
Okay, cool.
So word gets to Shimon HaTzadik, who says, okay.
And he's like the local community leader of the Jews in Israel at that point, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, he's like the leader, okay?
He's the big leader.
The big guy.
He's the big cheese.
Okay, so he donned the garments of the high priest and he gets his whole entourage behind him, and he goes to meet Alexander the Great on his way through Judea. The story goes that Alexander sees Shimon HaTzadik coming from a distance with his entourage. Alexander gets off of his horse, bows down to Shimon HaTzadik, and all of his his people with him are like, Alexander,
what is happening?
What the heck are you doing? Why are you bowing to this Jewish dude? And Alexander says, because this guy appears to me every night in a dream before I win a victory. And so Alexander and Shimon HaTzadik get together. They have a nice relationship. Okay, that's
Get together, have a nice relationship. Glass of wine.
Why can't I talk?
I don't know. It's very early in the morning.
Ultimately, Shimon HaTzadik is able to represent the Jews on favorable terms to Alexander.
I think it was right again.
Yeah. See, we are in the middle of Sheikh Jarrah right now.
We have no idea where we are. We'll just pretend that we do know. It's fine. Because I've learned a lesson or two from running around Jerusalem with you, Michael, is that story real? Or is that made up nonsense?
So the question you really have to ask is, where does that story appear? You know, where are the sources for it?
Right.
And the sources are the Jewish text. It's straight out of the Talmud. So again, the Talmud is not a history book, okay? That's trying to just tell these stories to teach lessons. Look, could he have met Alexander the Great?
Am I going the right way? I mean, lots of these are questions that we should be asking in life. This is not the right way.
But this is beautiful.
It's great.
So there was this meeting between Alexander and between Shimon HaTzadik, and basically what came out of it is favorable terms for the Jews.
Right.
And by the way, it's from this point that Alexander becomes a Jewish name, because there are a lot of Jews named Alexander, and they were never named like that before.
Right. on a shortcut, isn't it?
Yes.
It's fine.
Through Sheikh Jarrah.
It's fine. We know where we are.
But look at this place.
No idea.
No, but look at this like beautiful valley we're running through. You have the Arab houses all around us.
Yeah.
It's a pretty neat place.
Yeah. I mean, I would give money for a sidewalk. Apart from that, I'm fine. So I get hit by a truck.
So we're heading to Shimon Tzaddik's tomb. What's your obvious question?
Is it actually his tomb? I've learned to be skeptical from you. You told me this. I was once such a believing fellow. Yeah.
So there's actually good reason to be skeptical in this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Because they found an inscription inside the tomb from the Roman period that mentions some Roman woman who is probably either the daughter or wife of one of the 10th Roman Legion soldiers that were stationed here. This is the legion that fought in the Great Revolt. This is the legion that was stationed here after the Great Revolt in that period of time we talked about earlier where the remains of Shuafat are from. So
it might not even be a Jewish tomb.
It's probably not a Jewish tomb.
That's a good, oh dear.
When did this become a Jewish site?
Okay.
The first mentioning we have of it being the tomb of Shimon Tzaddik comes from the 13th century, from around 1250. So we're coming down to the complex now. It's turned into a synagogue.
So we're
gonna be quiet.
It is very bizarre. Like we're 360 degrees in the Arab neighborhood, and it's like this place is bizarre. So the cave is the tomb is in here?
There's actually another cave as well with inscription in Hebrew. They call it the place of the Little Sanhedrin. And in this particular area, you had dozens of these different tombs.
Okay, I'm going to keep it quiet because the guy just standing outside praying, but this was an amazing run, contrasted between Arab communities, into a British war cemetery, Mount Scopus, university, into another Arab community, into
ברוך אתה אדינו אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו.
Amen.
And, you know, a place of prayer for Jewish worship as well.
I hope you guys learned something, visited some new neighborhoods here, and can't wait for you to join us on future runs. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel,
Subscribe to Facebook.
and we'll see you next time.
Running around Jerusalem, guys.